Be sure to subscribe for your chance to win a custom leather playmat when we hit 2,500 subscribers. Welcome to Fast Effect Double Speed Magic the Gathering from ELD's Time Vault Games Discord. So we're playing live every week, Wednesdays and Fridays, 7 p.m. Eastern. So you can actually join the fun. You just need a webcam or smartphone. You'll be able to play with your computer. We've got a couple of spicy lists here. Brian on Death Shadow versus Heather on Turbo Depths. Heather picking up pieces of this with her winnings, consistently doing pretty well here. But also mixing it up. She's been playing Goblins, Death and Taxes, Turbo Depths now, Phoenix. A little bit of a rogue at heart. Likes to win with some crazy strategies. And we'll see if Turbo Depths is going to be able to outrace Death Shadow. Now, I don't have the life totals on camera. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can follow along. I believe Brian's going to be at 15. It's going to be much more important than your typical matchup, as Brian's going to use his life as a resource to enable incredibly efficient creatures. Death Shadow primarily, but also Gurmag Angler comes out thanks to cycling cards like Street Wraith and playing other free cards. And now a Death Shadow, I believe a 2/2, as Daze enables that Watery Grave to be picked up and put back down. The Daze stopping a Lotus Petal. And we've got Force, Snuff Out, and Oko. Double Force is online here. The Snuff Out not going to be super useful. Could perhaps snag a Elvish Reclaimer. I'm not sure where this Pithing Needle is on. So, Force of Will. An option, Snuff Out an option. Vampire Hexmage. Not going to be able to handle that with Snuff Out, but the Oko could possibly trade with it. And that's actually not going to be a legal play, as Snuff Out -4 can't even actually target it. So that'll get undone. I believe we're handling that judge call right now, because he's not going to be able to pay the 4 life, as there's no legal target. Alright, so Vampire Hexmage is in play. And I believe we've gone to Brian's turn. He's drawing a card for turn. And it's going to be a question of attacking. Right now, I believe the Death Shadow a 2/2, so probably not attacking, as it would just die to the Vampire Hexmage. You could potentially swing and bluff Street Wraith. That's a line. It's a certain amount of complexity to that. Your opponent has to be sophisticated enough to know about Street Wraith and not block. Oh, and I think he just accidentally cashed out a Death Shadow. That's no bueno. It's muy mal. Death Shadow, not something you can afford to throw away in this deck. Vampire Hexmage still chilling, waiting to potentially kill an Oko or make a Merit Lage. And now another Vampire Hexmage, which turns sideways, which I don't love. This Death Shadow now a much bigger threat. This is a big benefit to Death Shadow, as people are not used to playing against it. We'll see how this goes. I feel like Heather may have been better off just looking to one-shot Death Shadow with a Merit Lage. If you chip away, this Death Shadow is going to get incrementally bigger, hitting back harder each time, until eventually it's potentially a 12/12 for just 1 mana. Yeah, Death Shadow combat is amongst the most complicated to calculate in Magic the Gathering. Verdant Catacombs. And it looks like a Hymn to Torok. Or something worth forcing. I'm actually not sure. It looks like Force of Will pitching Oko. And Brian going to be down to 6 as he fatally pushes one of these, leaving himself with a very healthy 7/7. And now Gurmag Angler really stabilizing here. So he's got a giant Death Shadow and now a 5/5 facing down just this Vampire Hexmage. And Heather actually going to need to scoop it up there. She's facing down lethal. Brian picking up the first game. I'll be interested if Heather catches this, how she feels about attacking into the Death Shadow, if that ends up being worth it. I know she didn't end up getting Merit Lage by the end of the game, but then it's also a question of how much longer the game would have went if it was just a 2/2 Death Shadow. Now the other side of that is there's plenty of things that Brian can draw that can voluntarily just offboard those last few life points. You know, a fetch land is going to be able to get rid of 3, no problem. But then that does, to speak to the complexity of the matchup, if you do voluntarily take that damage, then you can get cracked back from the Vampire Hexmages for lethal, for example. Like, you got to be careful figuring out exactly what you want to be doing with your life total. It's really complex. Like, the combat is just about as complex as it gets in Magic when you're dealing with Death Shadows. What I really enjoyed about playing Death Shadow when I was playing it in Legacy, and there's some great matches on the channel of me playing it. One of my more memorable matches versus a Blue-Red Delver in the finals of a tournament that I was very, very committed to winning emotionally. Death Shadow always felt like I could have played it better. Every single tournament that I played with it, I would walk away feeling like, man, there was like tiny little decisions that I'm not sure that I made perfectly. And I really enjoyed that element of it. Because a lot of the time, if you've got a lot of reps, it'll feel like you're kind of on autopilot. You kind of ignore the bad lines and just, you know, make the best choice that you can. But Heather, an incredibly fast start here. Urborg, and then that enables Dark Depths to tap for black mana. So we've got a Pithing Needle on Wasteland, and then a turn 2 Hexmage, and Heather takes that one down handily with exactly the type of hand that is a sales pitch for Turbo Depths. So talking about turn 1, shut down the Pithing Needle, shut down the Wastelands with Pithing Needle. Turn 2, just drop a Hexmage and a Dark Depths during your end step. Here's a 20/20. Let's do this. Very, very powerful. And, you know, a 20/20 Indestructible can be handled in this format, but it is not. It is. Let's see. It's not as difficult as beginners might think, who just hear 2020 indestructible. That seems impossible, but it is a bit harder than you might guess if you're really familiar with the game, just given on how fast it happens and how many responses the Turbo Adepts deck can have. They have Not of This World, a free counterspell when it's targeting a spell that targets a permanent you control with sufficient power, and Merit Lage has plenty of power to qualify for that. They also have Crop Rotation to be able to find Sajiri Step, so you're potentially facing down upwards of 4 to 8 cards where they can just easily respond. And then if you add into the mix things like Elvish Reclaimer, it just gets worse and worse. So Turbo Adepts can make it very difficult to handle that 2020. Even though, indestructible and 20 toughness goes a long ways, it does need to go the extra mile to ensure that that lethal damage actually connects with the opponent. But we're into game number 3. New layout here on the channel. Slightly larger play spaces for the players. So normal aspect ratio is 16 by 9. So this is about 12.5% larger opponent player areas, whatever we're calling that. And then I'm shrunk down to a more appropriate size, I would think. At least cropped in. We really don't need what's going on to the left and to the right of me. Barely need me, really. It's just something to do with the space. Probably get some information on here, stuff about the website. Maybe some links. I'll play around with it. I'm excited about the new format. We have an Inquisition off of Urborg, which is too late as Delver of Secrets comes down turn 1, and the rest of the hand, pretty spicy. We do see a Death Shadow, a From the Vault, or not From the Vault, a Jace's Spellbook Brainstorm, which is fired off during the upkeep, gonna ensure that this Delver flips. Priority number 1, setting a clock. And we see a Daze. And from here on out, Brian's just gonna look to control the game. If he can shed some life and get down a Death Shadow and speed up the clock, he will. But the most important thing here is making sure that you don't lose the inevitability you want it on your side when you're playing a deck like Death Shadow, to just be able to slow your opponent down. And a Sylvan Scrying. Which Brian is happy to daze, as it would be getting an uncounterable card. Could grab a Wasteland, could grab, more than likely, part of the Dark Depths combo. Wasteland, of course, can be used to screw over your opponent's mana, but more importantly in this deck, Wasteland can be used to target your opponent's Wasteland, forcing them to just use it in response, and at that point you can just make your 2020 in response to their Wasteland. We've got another Sylvan Scrying, this time with the mana open, to pay for days if Brian did happen to top deck one. And no Wasteland. Death Shadow, a very distinct flavor of Delver deck. Blue-red Delver, of course, very strong. Most builds of Delver at this point have strayed into multiple colors to enable things like Oko, Dreadhorde Arcanist, sideboard options. It's so tempting to go 3 colors with Delver. And black-blue, I would say Death Shadow is probably the best build of black-blue Delver. We've got a Gurmag Angler coming to the party here. And Heather has plenty of mana. She just needs a Thespian Stage or a Vampire Hexmage to make a 20/20. There's the Thespian Stage. And now it's a question of when. And it looks like the answer is now. So Heather shoving on her turn. Does not want Brian to be able to make a wasteland land drop. And she's got a basic forest open. She's playing a Pithing Needle. So, does not have crop rotation here. Thoughtseize. Crop rotation would be worth keeping the green mana open for to be able to protect this 2020. Well, she's got an Elvish Spirit Guide anyways. Oh, she had the Elvish Spirit Guide along with the crop rotation. I incorrectly thought about that scenario. Of course, you can have Elvish Spirit Guide to play the crop rotation at instant speed, even when tapped out. A play that definitely gets people. I've certainly done that many times. And it looks like we've got a Gurmag, a Flying Delver, another Thoughtseize. That takes out the Elvish Spirit Guide. Are the life totals so low that this Merit Lage cannot swing? We've got a Elvish activation giving protection to get past the Delver of Secrets. And that is going to do it. Oh, look at that. Brian just a mana away from Oko, completely saving the day. And instead, Heather able to get that Merit Lage past Delver of Secrets. Both creatures kind of unusual there. They're not usually standing around untapped staring at each other. But a little bit of a standoff, which is broken with that new elf, which I think is... It was grossly undervalued. I'm not sure what it is now, but I mean, I picked up a bunch of that card for like less than $1, just like retail as a store. I was like, I don't see how this card's going to stay so cheap. So we'll see. Maybe I'm a fool, but I feel like that card should be like $5. So good, so powerful, and there wins the game for Heather in 3. That is all for this one, but don't worry, there is a lot more. You can check out our older videos, and we're always putting out new videos from ELD's Time Vault Games in Bellingham, Massachusetts. If you want to help the channel, of course, you can like, subscribe, share, tap that notification bell so you can know the next time our new videos come out. Thanks for watching.